be upset. Something like this needs communicated, period. You want community support, gain our trust that you have just destroyed. I'll tell you, there are way more silent people out there that after this will just choose not to support our school because of the underhanded way things are done. It used to really upset me when people would choose not to support our school's levies. I'm starting to understand why they feel that. It's not because they do not like our school or support our kids. They do not support the people in charge. So sad, because it doesn't have to be that way. So that is the last comment. At this point in time, we will move on. Ms. Cunningham has requested to speak, and she will be granted that time in that direction. So we are looking at 5 minutes, and whenever you start, we will start the clock. So, what do you? If you want to come up to the mic, just so everyone on this live stream can hear you well from that standpoint.
Thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes to address the panel and the community at large. My name is Jamie Cunningham. I am a faithful taxpayer in this valiant school district. I am a mother of three, a grandmother of three, and a surgical technologist currently employed at McLaren St. Luke's Hospital in Maumee. My goal is to seek dialogue, discovery, disseminate data, and perhaps develop a plan to implement a grassroots organization at the local level in Hancock County. The organization is PDE, Parents Defending Education. Why does education need to be defended, you might ask? Because there are aggressive activists targeting schools with a campaign to impose toxic curriculums under the veiled guise of social justice, equity for all, diversity, and inclusion. Through American history and civics education, critical race theory is the new America's institutional orthodoxy. It is an academic discipline rooted in neo-Marxism, promoting conflict. Supporters of this theory are forcibly demanding a revolution at the cost of our children, our next generation. Its superior goal in the cancel culture mantra is to sow hatred and dispel any evidence of whiteness. I believe we should effortlessly and tirelessly maintain a culture that is not canceling anything other than a qualifying pure evil. Critical race theory has saturated our colleges, 100 at last count, for the past 30 plus years. As parents and caregivers of children's education, we need to inhibit the would-be despicable scoundrels with a counter-revolution that promotes patriotism, a love for our country, our republic, our nation, our God. Let us promote liberty and justice for all. After all, the concept of defunding the police stems from the exact ideology that critical race theory supporters want to adopt and assimilate. So my questions are you in favor of racism being taught through the curriculum engineered and specializing in pitting blacks against whites? And will you be teaching our K through 12 students here at VB that America is an evil place founded by selfish white men? Are we gonna promote heroism or cowardice and spinelessness? The indoctrination of our children is on the march. Where I'm employed, I'm required to regularly stay current with education in my work-related field. They tell us to speak up because what you permit, you promote. Do not remain silent, for it promotes acceptance. We cannot promote a generation of victims, but instead a future of citizens embracing traditional values like truth and justice. I want the radical agenda-driven activists to be met with failure when encountered and collided with the fortitude of parents defending education. Be courageous.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so the question is, I don't know if critical race theory exists in the current curriculum that has been taught, or if it's on the horizon for possibly this next year. Because I know that the Biden administration is going to be pouring $1 billion a year to implement it. So I just want to know what the school board and faculty has planned. And if you don't know tonight, that's okay.
I was going to say, from
Yeah.
that standpoint, I'm
Yeah.
not aware of any of that in the curriculum, but I cannot say one way or another
Yeah.
in that direction. So what we'll do is we'll gather some information, and Mr. Bloom will send you an email with a response from that standpoint.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, because the parents, like I said, Defending Education, it's a national grassroots, but I want to get one going here in Hancock County. So, and of course, I'm a taxpayer in Van Buren, so
Starting here.
Starting
I
here.
understand.
yes.
All right,
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Moving on, thank you. Moving on to informative reports. First up is elementary, Mr. Newcomer. There we go. All right, sorry.
I don't have anything to add to my report. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Hearing none from the board, we appreciate everything you do. Please pass along everything, or that we appreciate everything that everyone in your building is doing. And it's pretty exciting to see a quote unquote normalcy happening with things like field trips and end of the day or end of the year walks on the track and items like that. So appreciate everything that everyone's doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to my report. Any questions?
Questions from the board? All right, no questions from us. Please pass along to everyone that we appreciate everything they're doing as well, and everything that they've done for the community with all the help that they've done out there with making it prettier and fixing everything up. Sorry, I'm really lost for word right now, but you understand what I was trying to do. So we appreciate that. So thank you. Mr. Shout, high school.
I just wanted to add, you already did a little bit of this right, Mike, but if you guys get a chance tonight, at some point, there's a long agenda, we'll pop over to the community room and check out our art show that's on display. Everything's already set up. Mr. Fry and our kids have done an amazing job, despite the crazy schedules and things. So if you get a chance to check that out, if you're not coming to Capital Ridge. Other than that, I have that third report.
Any questions?
I have a comment. So I just want to give you some feedback. I got great feedback on prom, after prom. Thank you for staff. Thanks to the parents, volunteers. Sounds like the students had a great time. Very positive, so.
Thank you for that.
All right. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Well, thank you, and please pass along to everyone in your building that we appreciate all their hard work and moving forward. So, VBEA highlights, Mr. Henry.
Yes, hi, I'm Chris Henry. I'm here representing VBEA. Mr. Vining is listening online. The VBEA would like to congratulate Mr. Bloom on his first year here at Van Buren. There's been a learning curve, and Mr. Bloom's openness and honesty has been very refreshing and welcoming. We are moving in the right direction. We've had a detour or three along the way, but through honest conversations, we are able to move forward with the best plan for the students here at Van Buren. There are some great things on the horizon here at Van Buren. Also, thank you to the board for helping guide us through this great year and for trusting in us as educators that we put the education of students first. Thank you to the board for recognizing the hard work and extra duty the teachers, bus drivers, custodians, and everyone else that makes this school what it is. Awesome. Many years are tough, but this year was one of the toughest, and we have made it through to the other side, hopefully. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for it? All right. Thank you, and please pass along that we appreciate everything that you all are doing as well. Teaching and learning report.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Schaefer was unable to make it, but I know the report was submitted, so if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer if there's any further questions.
Questions? All right, hearing none. Mrs. Schaefer, if you're listening, we appreciate everything you've done, all your hard work when it comes to it. It's definitely an exciting time. Maintenance, transportation, food service.
Yeah, I'm here.
Are they online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Mr. Kelly, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hey, John, start again, please.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Try again. Okay, go ahead.
I have nothing to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the board?
No, I'm pretty familiar with what it is.
Mr. Kelly, we might have questions later on in the treasurer's report. So if you're okay with staying on the line for that portion of it, we don't have anything about your maintenance, transportation, and food service report, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, please pass along to everyone that we appreciate all their hard work that they're doing, keeping the grounds looking as nice as they are. So we appreciate that.
I will. Thank you.
Moving on to athletics.
Mr. Slaughterbeck was unable to be here, but he did give me some highlights that he wanted to make sure was emphasized. The first one is that our softball team finished 21-5, 8-1 in the BVC, and they won the league title. Our baseball team finished 7-20, 3-7 in the BVC. Our track team is competing at the district tournament tomorrow, and individuals will qualify for the regional meet next week. Our boys track team took second in the BVC, and our girls team took fourth in the BVC. So those are the highlights that he wanted to make sure everyone knew.
All right, any questions to relay back to Mr. Slaughterbeck? All right, well, please pass along to him, but also anyone that's listening as well. We appreciate everything that the coaches have done and moving forward with this year to keep it as normal as possible. So thank you. Technology report. Anything to add?
Nothing bad.
All right, any questions for Mr. Niss? All right, hearing none, we appreciate all your all's hard work when it comes to it, and I'm sure that Cabaret appreciates some of the work that's been going on over there as well to make the show potentially even better. So. All right, superintendent's report.
The only thing I would like to highlight, which we'll be talking about later, which happened last Thursday from the CDC and has been a hot topic in the community, is the mask mandate moving forward. So when we have that discussion later on, there will be some information I can share. I did talk with the health department this afternoon around 3 o'clock just to get the latest information to help us discuss what's best from June 2nd on when the mask mandate is lifted. So that's kind of just the emphasis that I'd like to point out.
All right, thank you. Or any questions, sorry. All right, hearing none. Moving on to the superintendent's standing committees. Personnel?
Laura and I need to have a meeting.
All right.
We will finish up the job descriptions that Mr. Bloom has given us.
Okay. Audit and finance?
Dawn will probably talk a little bit, but we did not have another meeting since the last board meeting.
Okay.
It will be scheduled for July.
Okay, next one will be in July. All right. Transportation and facilities?
We had a meeting on April 30th. The key takeaways from that is we reviewed our permanent improvement tracking that is being done. Again, it's very fluid in nature as different projects and that kind of stuff come up. We also had further discussions on what seems to be rising maintenance costs versus having to sit down one of these days and do a really good permanent improvement capital type plan. We discussed the soccer light project. It sounds like funds have been raised up to approximately $100,000 at that time, with 55,000 still to go. So, and we also discussed after, but kind of during it, Lynn and I talking about getting community members to come onto the committee. Hopefully we can attract 2 for permanent to our committee and maybe share one with the finance committee. That way somebody can be going back and forth and we don't get into the issue with us all being in the same room. So, that's
Can
it.
I add, I'd like to add.
Yes,
something
go
to
ahead.
that. So I reached out to John Kelly, asked him if he knew some people, so he's looking at that hopefully. And I asked our former board member, Jim Griffith, to come back and be on it, and he declined after serious consideration. He thanked us for considering it. So still work in progress, trying to find someone.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Athletics and extracurricular? I don't think anything. Okay. District and school policies, we'll have our second reading, but anything else to add to it? Okay. Student achievement liaison,
Nothing to add.
okay. And then curriculum, nothing to add since the last meeting in that direction, so. All right. Thank you much. Moving on to old business. I did not have anything under old business. Does anyone from the board remember anything that we needed to bring up? Okay, moving on to new business. First item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. So, I'm gonna walk us through
Sure.
before, you don't have to do much with, oh, go ahead, walk through.
Okay. I'm just gonna give you some highlights from the finance office right now. With the 5-year forecast presentation tonight, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on the finance report. But I wanted you to note a couple items. I do have an item in the finance report, and it's a refund from Medicaid, Department of Medicaid. It's gonna be just over $43,000. Since we provide services to Medicaid eligible students, they went back to fiscal year 19. They've been working actually on this process over the last few years. I believe they went all the way back to fiscal year 12, and incrementally they have been coming forward. They're now at fiscal year 19. It's taken some time to get there. But what they do is they go back and they audit everything that we were paid and all the services that we provided. So there was a discrepancy in our favor that we provided more services than we actually received funding for. So that's where that $43,000 will come from. I'm working on the property, casualty, fleet liability insurance. That's actually out right now for proposal. I didn't go out for a full bid this year since we did that last year. I'll most likely take another look at proposals from other companies next year. So we'll most likely stay with Ohio School Plan this year. But there's also additional discussions between having a treasurer's bond and using the liability insurance through the district to accomplish the same thing. There seems to be something moving through the state that they're suggesting that the treasurer's bond isn't necessary anymore. Now, our policy indicates that we are able to use insurance policy instead of a bond. Maybe it's something that I can provide you additional information on, and maybe we can make some sort of motion before my bond expires as to whether or not you want me to renew, or just go ahead and let the liability insurance cover that, cover the district in that way.
When will that date be? When the bond,
It expires June 30th.
June 30th, okay.
Mhm, yeah, so I do have some resources, and there's a quick meeting, about an hour-long meeting that I'm gonna go through and make sure that I have all the resources available for you before I ask you to make any kind of motion on that. Because it's something relatively new. There's always been a treasurer's bond in place, and it's a liability thing. So they said that it does not, if we use the district insurance, it does not make the district any more liable if that bond is not in place. So I'm going to continue to investigate that, so I'll circle back around on that later on. I did get a note from the Ohio Department of Education. We've talked many times about how the foundation payment for us is a negative cash flow. So in order to bring our foundation payment to zero every month, the foundation actually like plugs a hole with a certain amount of money every time we get paid twice a month. So I received a notice from the Ohio Department of Education that they needed a payment from us in the amount of $337,000. It's really kind of interesting to try and explain this because they're treating it like a refund, but they never really gave us the money to begin with. So what we're actually doing is taking local tax dollars and transferring them to the state to cover the mandates that are in place with all of the deductions that come off of our foundation off the top. So because it's a negative cash flow, they basically plug that hole with that dollar amount, and now they're asking for a payment.
So this is another example of our taxpayers pushing money back to the state level.
Correct.
And there's nothing we can do about it unless we get a different funding formula.
Right, and the projections from the new funding formula indicate that we would probably receive an additional maybe $400,000 a year. So that might bring us actually to the break-even point. So in order to offset this even further, we've made deals for next fiscal year. So I'm working with the state teachers retirement system, and I'm working with the state employees retirement system. And we also made a deal with the local ESC. And all of those expenses that are coming out of our foundation right now, I'm trying to get us to the point where we're direct pay. So we treat it like any other bill that we have to pay every month. And we're not playing this game with the foundation formula anymore. So I'm hoping to have everything for that in place in July, but I'll keep you posted as I move through it. I think, I've got one down, there's 2 more to go. So we've made progress, but I'm not quite there yet. So, and then we would actually, on paper, we would actually show a positive cash flow every time we got paid, and we wouldn't have to deal with this situation ever again. So, and I told Elena Sanders at the department, she's the one that's been, kind of pushing me through back and forth, and I told her, I said it's our goal to not be in this situation with you again next year. So she knows that we're working towards that, and she's been very supportive. So, trying to think if there's anything else in my report itself that I need to go. I don't think so, not with the presentation for the forecast. Chris, do you know how I'd be able to show the presentation for the folks that are online, or am I not going to be able to do that?
Yes, no, you're gonna have to join the meeting and then share your screen. That's how we'll do it.
Okay. Do you think we're going to get a reverberation? We'll see. No.
Yeah.
I'm able to rejoin this meeting because the host moved me. Okay. While we're getting that up and running, I just I guess I want to preface the data in the 5-year forecast by saying this really has been a year of twists and turns for us, up and down financially, Just a year ago, we were in precautionary status with the Ohio Department of Education. We were working through the performance audit, we were writing reduction plans, we were waiting on levy results from the spring, because at this point, we don't think we have the results yet. And then we were looking at a fall renewal that was upcoming, as well as, we were almost at the point where we were welcoming Mr. Bloom to Van Buren. So there's a lot of things that should I try again?
In your inbox, check your inbox, and then I sent you an invite. So that's.
Hey, Don, your inbox is showing online.
Oh, is it? Oh, look, well, good grief. How about we do that instead then? How's that? Beautiful. Is that good? Okay. I was just trying to say that we've been through a really crazy year with the pandemic and everything else. I mean, we've implemented so many things to make our finance better. People in the district have worked tirelessly to make sure that our expenses were staying in line. I know we have all done without. It's been kind of a crazy year. The illustrations that I'm showing you tonight are starkly different from where we were last year at this time, because there's so many unknowns last year. You can see that 2021 is really kind of a pivotal year for us. Not only is our cash balance starting to go up, but this will be the first time that we're actually projecting our revenues to exceed our expenses. I know that we don't know everything that's going on, but this is the best thing to keep in mind, is that this 5-year forecast is a snapshot of what I know today. So the specific assumptions that we've made that are behind these numbers are included in the report itself. So this is just another rendering of the revenues and the expenditures and ending cash balances. So the next one will actually show us the true days cash, and that is the amount of cash. If your revenue were to stop on this specific year and you would receive no more, how long would your cash balance keep you up and running? So, and the number of days that would actually occur. So 30 to 90 days is the ODE recommendation for cash on hand. And these figures do include all of the not only the income tax levy, but the and emergency levy renewal as well. So you see that our trends are much better than they were last year. I believe we were trending in the negative last year. So, and this is just general fund cash balances as compared to unencumbered balances and what that 30-day cash ratio would be. This is just a different rendering of really the same information, is just a little bit different. So you can actually see that cash balance moving forward. So this general revenue sources, this is over 81% of our revenues are local. So that kind of circles us back to the idea that that the state is actually asking for us to send them $337,000. So because of our valuation and the amount of local revenue that we receive, that's why we are put into that category of being a rich district in the state. So with that fact, the state has and legislators have decided that they don't need to be a big participator in the revenue that comes into this district. And that if there would be any additional revenue needed, that we would have to return to our local taxpayers in order to fund that shortage. So this is our local revenues in comparison to the state funding decreases. over time. You'll notice that that state funding will continue to decrease through 2025, and that's from the tangible personal property reductions. And I know this is a lot of information on this slide, but this is basically the continued reduction of those tangible personal property taxes. As we know, there was a very significant revenue stream that came from tangible personal property tax. It definitely business related. They replaced the tangible personal property tax with the CAT tax, which is the commercial activity tax. With the passage of the commercial activity tax, the legislators decided that school districts would not participate in that revenue. So they removed us from that formula. And so over time, it's really been since probably 2012, we started to see this reduction. And we knew at some point that those revenues would run out. So there are some revenue considerations for us. We have had a growth in property values of just over 6% for the 2019 reappraisal. Our local tax revenues were actually came in at quite a bit higher than what we had anticipated this year. House Bill 49 changed the CAUV calculations for the 2019 triennial update. Those revaluations have not affected us as much as we originally had thought that they would. The pub taxes increased, that's the personal property from public utilities. That increased for 2020 by 46%, which we were pretty surprised about as well. So I'm still kind of researching to see where that huge increase has come from. There's no increase in state basic foundation in House Bill 166. We did receive an enrollment growth for our district for the state funding, but in fiscal year 20 and 21, it was cut due to COVID-19. Tangible personal property state reimbursement will be eliminated in 21, and the fixed rate current expense levies will be eliminated in 25. So we anticipate those reductions coming forward. These are the fiscal year 21. This is where we estimate that we will actually close this fiscal year. As we know, as an educational organization, we're a service organization. We provide educational services for students. We fund educational programs, and the expenses for those lie in not only purchasing services for our students, but in the folks that actually come here every day and provide those services for our students. So this falls very much in line with what you would anticipate. And you'll see the relatively small amounts that we have actually spent on supplies and equipment out of our operating dollars. So this is, Melinda, you might actually be kind of interested in this because this is actually some of those funds that you were asking me about that are going out. So these are folks that are actually leaving the district. These are students. So there's open enrollment out, there's community school transfer, the EdChoice scholarship, and then that orange line is that total cost of how much is going out each year.
And Dawn, how does that impact our state funding formula?
It comes right off the top. That's one of the, in the bi-monthly expenses, those open enrollment, community school, and scholarship, those come out twice a month and are transferred to other school districts to for their educational expenses.
Can we add that as an agenda item to look at next month or the month after?
Sure.
Of the reasons we're seeing the individuals leave.
Yeah, I think it was excessively high this year. I think.
Well, I was looking at the financial report, and it looks like 20 was above 19, but we're well below on 21.
Well, it's trending upward for 21. We actually had quite a bit of a jump overall. The total is just over $1 million going out this year. And I think it has a lot to do with the pandemic and whether or not folks actually sent their kids to the building to school even after we reopened. So, if you decided to do, a community school that was maybe in session 5 days a week when we weren't necessarily in 5 days a week. So there's all kinds of reasons I think that folks actually did that. So, yeah, but we can put that on the agenda. We can talk about it. So these are just the overall general fund expenditures from fiscal year 18 through fiscal year 25. And you'll see the wages and benefits and services, of course, are the majority of what it is that we're spending our funds on. So just some financial considerations. The state of Ohio is definitely shifting the burden of funding the schools onto local taxpayers by reducing the tangible personal property. We're actually seeing that reimbursement decrease over the years in this forecast. Fiscal year 20 and 21 saw no increase in state funding, and then we have had a decrease of $163,000 due to COVID pandemic, which added to the funding problem. This slide did not take into consideration the amount of money that we sent back this year. So last year they had initially asked for over $300,000 again. This year we didn't get a special dispensation because of the pandemic. Passage of the income tax and renewal of the emergency levy, they have improved our finances. And the expenditures, of course, will need to be monitored going forward to maintain fiscal stability as we move to the right on that forecast. So this is just a forecast overview. It just gives the first two lines, total revenues and total expenditures. Item 6.01, which is the first big gray bar there, that's actually showing the movement between revenues and expenditures and what that cash flow is doing for us. I actually thought that we were gonna either break even or have a little bit of a positive cash flow this year. But unfortunately, with the load out from the state at the end of the year, I'm not sure that we're going to make it. So, but going forward, this is making assumptions that programs stay essentially stagnant. So I'm sure that we're going to see fluctuations in these amounts moving to the right on that forecast. But this is a good estimate. My biggest focus when I create this forecast is how we're going to close the fiscal year that we're currently in, and some reasonable projections for the next year. And the majority of the change in the finances or the results for next year rests specifically on the income tax, and that becoming more and more funded. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from anyone? A lot of information.
It is a lot. I'm so sorry. It's a lot of.
I gave everybody warning that they had plenty of time to review and ask questions. So, all right. Well, appreciate everything when it comes to that. I will make a motion to approve items 1, which is the financial report, 2, which is the donations from FFA, 3, which is approve the grants and new funds. New item 6, which is approve the ODE insufficient funds plan. Item 7, which is the Medicaid final statement, and 8, which is the 5-year forecast. So that is items 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Kim seconds that. So I'm not repeating all of those items, but those are the items that are up for approval. So if you would like to call the roll.
Ms. Sebright?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Lightfoot?
Yes. Motion carries. Those items are approved. Moving on to treasurer's item number 4, which would be to approve the contracts of Midwest Regional Education, Hancock County Sheriff's Department, and Midwest Regional ESC for the visually impaired services. So sorry, I should repeat that one more time. The first one was for the audiology services, and the last one was for the visual services. So 2 contracts with Midwest Regional Education and 1 with the Hancock Sheriff's Department. That is the item that we're discussing. So, question. I got Indy as the first to make a motion to approve those.
A second.
Or second, that's it. All right, any questions, concerns? All right, so this is to approve the Midwest Regional Education Services for 2 contracts and the Hancock County Sheriff's Department for 1. If you want to call the roll.
Ms. Ebright?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Williams? Yes. Mr. Lightfoot?
Yes, motion carries. Those items are approved. Now, item 5 would be the approval of the Dunbar Mechanical contract for the elementary water pipe installation.
I just want to have just a quick discussion on
Sure.
that.
Do we need Mr. Kelly?
They can jump on it.
Can we, do we need a motion before we can discuss? Or just discuss?
We have to do the point of order. Okay.
Okay, I know, I'm.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So
Okay,
I can make a motion to approve that. And we just need, Linda's the second. Now it's open for discussion.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank John for the last 2 times he had me over there looking at the situation. As you guys are probably aware, there was a couple different leaks in the old elementary part of it. He thoroughly walked me through it. I got a great opportunity. I want to thank him and his staff for working on overtime to get it fixed. I know, I believe we lost a day of school in there once, but after reviewing the plan, reviewing it with him, I would like to see this referred back to the facilities committee to get a great understanding of what's going on. I don't think it fully addresses all the problems that are there. I would look at this more as addressing some of the areas, but I think we need to get a grasp of the entire problem, get it in front of the facilities committee, and have them come back with the recommendations of the board. So I don't know if John would like to.
John's.
Yes, I'm here.
I don't think
I would agree with you on that. I think that
It's a lot of money.
It's
It's
a good
It's not
proposal.
actually
It's a
fixing the
proposal that'll
piping.
work.
road. So I think there has to be a more of a holistic approach, and also the classrooms still have the same issue.
Yeah.
Just-
Can you hear me?
From my
I
understanding.
mean,
Yeah, so I guess that would be the issue that I would have is what is the timing that's around if we.
Well, it was at least the quote, the actual physical quote that I'm looking at, it was given on May 10th. It said, that was my other concern, is since school wouldn't be in session, it's saying the work's being performed on overtime and double time on the weekend. So with school not in session, we really have to do that. And I don't see anywhere here on it as a timeline as far as when it would be done.
Can you guys hear me?
can this fix wait until 3 weeks, until school isn't in session?
I think at least the way I understood it, help me with this, the plan was for this would take
This would
place
wait.
after,
So,
once school was out for session. So it was
Yeah.
going to be over the summer. My only fear is, and this is where I don't know, would be the timing when it comes to it. If we wait another board meeting, is that now going to make this an issue that they can't get to until August, when we would have to talk about being in session? Because although August is normally hot, who knows? I don't even know when it comes to it. And we definitely want to get this resolved in some manner. So I don't disagree with quote unquote throwing good money at a bad problem. But we also want to do this in a timely manner from that degree. So that would be my only wondering. The other item is this was, correct me if I'm wrong, this contract was on the, whatever the consortium that we are. So this is,
It's a meta pricing.
so to everyone that It just means that's the best that we're probably gonna get from the contracts that we have, in that degree. Now, I don't know how long that stays good, when it comes to it, but that would be my only question. I guess that would be my question to.
Is he still here, Chris?
I'm not able to get in.
I'm here trying to talk.
Oh,
I'm asking him if he can chat, and if he does, if you have specific questions, I'll type them to him. But, I don't think we're gonna be able to get audio.
okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Going along with what you said, Andy, was whatever day someday this week. We were talking about exactly that, and will this do a long-term solution or is it a short-term fix? And unfortunately, he was working, Mr. Kelly, on getting another estimate on doing a more broad fix, like you're saying, so it addresses the bigger issue instead of the pressing issue right now. So it would like do a more of a long-term fix. Unfortunately, we did not get that quote by day. So we are hoping we have a facilities meeting internally Tuesday of next week. And then from that, we're going to invite the board committee to come the following week to go with what we have. According to Mr. Kelly, we were talking about still being in a window to try to get this done over the summer, especially since we don't start until after Labor Day. So Andy is right, and there has been discussions with you and Mr. Kelly. And from those spark that follow-up to Dunbar to see what could happen, and they have their engineers working on it to try to come up with a permanent fix.
I just want to make sure whatever temporary fix aligns with the permanent fix and all that, so.
So could we schedule a board meeting in 2 weeks?
We can have an emergency board meeting once we have that information. I'm not comfortable scheduling one in 2 weeks because there's not a guarantee that we're gonna have more information in 2 weeks than what we have. But Kim, I completely agree. We can definitely do an emergency board meeting just for that item to discuss. So if the comfort level of the superintendent is that we can wait, then
I think we still have enough of a window, especially if we want to look at a more permanent fix. We just don't know what that cost is for that more permanent fix.
Or at least have a plan with it, that this part of it goes into a permanent fix.
Phasing in or something.
all right, any other discussion? All right,
There goes my balanced budget.
hearing none, the item to be voted on is to approve the Dunbar mechanical equipment or contract as presented. You want to call the roll?
So what are we voting on?
We have to take action on the item on the table.
Gotcha, okay.
So I cannot get around that. We do
Nope.
not have to approve it tonight, but that's for your all's decision.
I just wanted to make sure.
So that is where we're at. So I want to have discussion first, but okay.
Sorry, I didn't think we could discuss.
Yeah. All right.
Ms. Seabright.
No.
Mr. Fisher.
No.
Ms.
Thomas? No.
Ms. Williams. Mr. Leclerc.
No. So motion did not pass. The contract as presented right now is not approved. So
Okay.
further discussion will be had and potentially have another meeting once we have more information.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Executive session. So this is to discuss the employment and compensation of personnel per the Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1. Looking for a motion to go into executive session. Linda's first, second.
I'll second.
All right, so motion on the table is to go into executive session. Do you want to call the roll?
Ms. Seabright.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Ms. Thomas. Yes. Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Leclerc.
Yes, motion carries. We're in executive session at 8:04. There are several items to take action upon once we get back. So appreciate everyone being here. If you're still here when we get back, we thank you. If you're not, we also thank you for attending our meeting. Have a great evening. We will be back. I don't know, we'll figure it out.
We don't know yet.
We're following this.
Yes.
What are you following?
Well, I was, when they gave the report, they could hear me. But they asked me to stay to discuss the Dunbar situation during the treasury report. So I said, okay. Right. He said in the board meeting just now, he didn't have any questions pertaining to my report in general. But Dawn had Dunbar, approved the Dunbar quote in her treasurer's report. He says, but we'd like you to stay to discuss the Dunbar quote during the treasurer's report. Like, that's stupid. Why are you talking about it now? So I said, okay, no problem. And they could hear me. You hear a little delay because I could hear myself when I was talking. So then we get to that part right now. I've got the mic on. And I'm yelling, going, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And they don't hear me. And Chris Ness said, and I texted Andy Field, I texted Don, or Andy Fisher, Don, and Brian, and said, you can't hear me. I'm talking, but you can't hear me. And then Chris Ness sent me a message through that system and said, they're having problems with the audio on their end. So, well. So I'm done.
Like, oh, you poor thing. You poor, right?
Everyone, I've said.
I want to go out and make glasses. And then I get home, yeah.
I don't.
I don't see.
I've left it all on the table.
I got nothing. I got nothing left.
Don, do you know that they have the new orange blossom bar over here? Try our new orange.
No, I
blossom.
forgot about it.
It's not, you don't want to go.
We need to talk to Mr. Katz.
I don't know about it.
I didn't go to the rest of the thing.
No, but it's just.
Have I ever eaten lunch here?
Have I ever eaten lunch here? No, I have not. Are you
Food is
inviting,
good.
are you inviting me to lunch here?
Yes, you
Hey, let's do it Monday.
You wanna do it Monday?
Let's do it Monday. I'll make sure Bo gets you something. I'll be right there in October.
Only
Time, you want?
Yeah. That way,
I can come early.
I'll come earlier.
Let's do 12.
Let's do 12. What's lunch cost here?
$3.40.
Okay. Can I use my account that I already have?
Since it's your
I
money.
know, I'm asking what it is.
I mean, you're paying for your kids.
That's
so-
right, that's right.
That was just a slide, the one that was probably, they were like, yeah, but. All right.
I had bratwurst today. I'm trying to.
The salad was
But the,
fantastic.
okay, the reason.
They have
why
a really-
this is
they have
so
really
good
good wraps.
Because she was one of the guest speakers in the lawyers thing.
Is there wrestling?
Well, yeah,
I'm not based
no, but it's like a 45-minute training, so they couldn't have all these other teachers there or consultants there. So. Anyway, that's the point. I'm not suggesting Toledo the Great.
I know you're not, but I will tell you, that got me like, I need to look into this because
I'm sort of like this. If my association recommends, like, Ohio School Organization recommends
I ended up not having things, but maybe you just emphasize that it's
Yes,
still
not support
recommended,
this.
but I.
I would support it.
Yeah, no,
see, person, if someone tells me not to do something, I have to go all the way over there.
Yeah, but there's.
Before I can vote yes.
And then you can do two people. Well, we are two different, right, but when we look at $25,000, that's $25,000, and it's gonna go up every year.
Okay.
That's the
We'll just push it along.
We'd love to have everybody show up there.
You know, I got that, but that's like this.
We can do that.
Pretty ready?
Whenever you're ready.
I got us out of executive session at 9:15. It's an easier number to write. Okay. Moving on, superintendent's recommendation.
Okay, just some highlights. It's nice to see that we have some summer camps back. We have reading camps, math camps, and teachers for that, and that they will be approved. Also, a very important, what item is that? That would be item number 17, approving the 2021 Van Buren High School graduates, pending their successful completion of all their requirements. That is there as well. Also, I wanted to highlight one, it's kind of bittersweet, I think, for the district, and Mr. Clark is not going to be with us next year. He's already left, but he is taking, if everyone hasn't heard, he's the next superintendent of Corey Rawson. In the short amount of time I had the privilege to work with him, he's been nothing but outstanding to work with, a great individual, great ideas, loves Van Buren, and I wish him all the best, but it's going to be a big loss, and it's going to be tough to fill. He's a stand-up guy, so I wish him well. And I think that is the other items are just, like I went over before with all the agenda item adjustments. It's just some staffing and advisors and football and getting ready already for next season, believe it or not. And those were the biggies from the ones that are still under my recommendation currently. Any questions?
All right, thank you. So this is where it's gonna be, if you have your agenda, I will try to help out a little bit when it comes to it. The items that we have decided that can be, if somebody wants to make a motion, put all together, are going to be items 1, which was the resignations, items 2, which are personal contracts, around grants, items 3, the extended days for secretary training, item 4, extended days for Mr. Slaughterback, item 5, which was the summer tutoring, item 6, which is the extended time for those teachers listed, item 7, which is the employment of bus drivers, custodials, aides, item 8, which is the extra or supplemental extracurricular, which is for Saturday school intention, summer camps, items like that. Then item 9, which would be the 3-year contracts, 2-year contracts, and 1-year contracts. Then item 12, which will be Chris Dix, Director of Technology. Item 13, which is Mr. Newcomer. Item 14, which is Mrs. Schaefer. Item 15, Kevin Chow. Item 16, which is the extended time for Ms. Orr and Ms. May. Item 17, which is the overnight trip. Item 18, which is now the graduating seniors. Item 19, which is the handbook, and item 20, which is the fees for kindergarten through grade 5. Those are the items that we decided in the adjustments to the agenda that could be taken action upon as a group. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
You do.
I have Andy as first,
Second.
Melinda as a second. And this is to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, onward to 20. Okay. Any discussion on those items? Hearing none, if you would like, call the roll.
Ms. Bright,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Yes, motion carries. Those items are approved. Moving on to the new agenda item number 10, the continuing contract. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Melinda is the first.
Second.
Andy is the second. Any items for discussion? This is for the approval of the continuing contract.
I do have a point that I don't fundamentally agree with continuing contracts. I don't agree that we have place in our educational system for continuing contracts. But that is not a reflection of the individual who is asking for the continuing contract. And it is rather a fundamental difference of understanding that this person will be granted tenure with our organization.
Mr. Chair, says that. Record can reflect that. Okay. Any other discussions? Hearing none, if you want to call the roll.
Ms. Bright,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
No,
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
and Mr. Lightfoot.
Abstain. Motion carries. Moving on to item 11. Which is the new 11, which is the approval of
Okay,
the family consumer science position to go from 0.5 up to 1 for the next academic year. Looking for a motion.
I make the motion.
Indy,
I'll second it.
Chris seconds. All right, any items of discussion?
Yeah, I have one. I just want to say thank you to all parties involved. I really appreciate everyone coming to the table, figuring out a way to get this back to a full-time position. Heard a lot of great comments through, appreciate everybody making comments. Very proud to hear that one of our teachers here, and hopefully that goes for all of them, are so well liked. So I just want to say that I really appreciate it, and
All right. We'll take note of that. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, if you want to call the roll.
Ms. Bright,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Joe.
Yes, motion carries. All right, moving on to for the board's discussion. We have an item on here for proposed resolution in opposition of House Bill 290. So this is just for our discussion when it comes to it. Anyone want to lead on that?
Sure, let me talk a little bit about it. So this is kind of what I talked about at our last board meeting, which was the vouchers of Ohio. And the Ohio School Board Association is recommending that we oppose the House bill, it's just also called a backpack bill. And that has to do with voucher money going outside of our district. And us losing, I think it's $25,000 a year, and it's going to continue to increase if it passes. So that's what that is. And so this is a resolution that Dawn drafted that talks about why we want to oppose the bill. So I'm hoping that my fellow board members will vote in support of this resolution. And the resolution will be sent to the Ohio House of Representatives, including Representative John Cross, who's our rep, and our state senator. So we need to make a motion to approve it.
So in order to action on it, it would have to be a motion to enter into that resolution. And then we would vote if we so choose to go in that direction. It's really up to, historically, boards do this. Some boards do, some boards don't. Personally, if you go back and look at all the records and minutes of the time I've sat on here, we have not done this. But that doesn't mean it's not, it's always a preference when it comes to it. So once again, we can have more discussion and go from there. All this is just to pretty much write this letter that is coming from the Van Buren School District to these. Everyone here can write the same letter, and I would encourage people to, because this is potentially something that can hurt us. We as individuals can write that letter as well, but this would be coming from the Van Buren School District from that direction. Correct. I'm not speaking out of turn on anything. Okay.
Yep. And it's a preference, like you said. You know, sometimes boards, you know, do this and some things they don't.
This
Whatever
is,
your preference is.
yeah, this is supported by the governing, I mean, the Ohio School Boards Association is speaking against it. So that is kind of the overseer of all the school boards in the state of Ohio, but just like everybody is, when it comes to anything politics, the majority doesn't always necessarily mean that's what you believe in. So we don't have to follow the Ohio School Boards Association if we don't want to, and that's completely fine. So
I'm fully in support. I think the best effective way is to engage, you know, with our elected officials and let them know how we feel, you know, community speaks. And I would make a motion to enter into this resolution for opposing House Bill 290.
all right, I have Edie as the first on that motion.
I'd second.
Linda is the second. Any other discussion around that when it comes to it?
My concern and where I'm coming from is that we need to look at, if we're gonna go after this aspect of legislation, we also really need to look at HB 1, which is about refunding all of the funding of schools. And, you know, I think that is where we are getting hit harder as a school district. And if we're gonna do this kind of a resolution, we should also really be diving into that also and making sure that gets tied, nice tied with a bow. So our school district will not be leaking money back to the state as Dawn presented earlier today. And if we're gonna do this, then I think this should be setting a precedence that we're gonna be doing it with the other one.
All right. Any other comments? All right, we ready to call the roll on moving into, or making a resolution in opposition of House Bill 290 from the Van Buren School District?
Mr. Bright?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Lundey?
No, motion carries. All right, mask mandate. This is gonna be fun, isn't it?
Well, I don't know what your definition of fun is, but really a week ago, when the CDC kind of changed course, it definitely caused an uptick in phone calls and emails and concerns about what we were going to be doing with our kids. Well, the first misconception was that it covers children, but a lot of their kids haven't been vaccinated. So then you throw in with what the governor sent out the following day, which was he's lifting the mask mandate, starting 12/1, June 2nd in the morning. So you throw that in, and then we had our health meetings we've been having since, it seems like 10 years, but every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And the recommendation was keep masks, keep policies, keep protocols that you have in place until June 2nd. After June 2nd, it's up to the local school boards. It pretty much as it exists right now, and I checked with the epidemiologist this afternoon just to make sure nothing had changed, and nothing has changed. It's pretty much when June 2nd hits, schools decide what you want to do with regards to masks. I did run by just one option, which went over okay with both the director and then the epidemiologist, was that if we give parents the choice on June 2nd, would that be something that would be supported? And it was, as long as it was emphasized that there is still a request from the CDC and local health department that you still should be wearing your masks. So they wanted the language somehow to say there's a request to wear masks, but there's no longer a mandate. So what I've been hearing loud and clear is that, at least the parents that are reaching out to me, they want a choice whether their children want to have a mask on or not. So that's kind of where we're at with it. Come June 2nd, there's really no mandate or true requirements that I'm hearing that we have to do as a school district moving forward. So that's kind of it in a nutshell from what I've understood over this past week and talking with our local health officials.
So what do you need from us? Do you want the board to make a recommendation to you? Do you want to make a recommendation to us? Do you want to just make a?
I would like to recommend.
Okay.
Is that starting June 2nd, we allow parents to have a choice whether they want their children to wear masks or not. With the caveat that we do send out some information saying that it's still a request from our local health department that children that are not vaccinated, their request would be that they wear masks. But ultimately, it's up to the parents to decide from that point on.
Temperature checks, would you still continue that?
No.
Okay, so no matter what, we're probably saying temperature checks are done
Yes.
as of.
How many days of school do we have left at that point?
After that, if you count the 2nd, which I am, you'd have 3 days.
So would we excuse from attendance any child whose parents did not want to send them to that environment with no repercussion?
I would. At the conclusion of this type of a year and the stress that it's caused on everybody, I don't want to penalize if at the end our parents just don't feel comfortable doing that. Or they could send their child to school with a mask, if they choose. Now, the one thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, it was said by our epidemiologist that if there was contact tracing, if there's no mask, it would be,
Quarantine
yeah, you would have quarantine.
after the summer.
Yes. So there is that side of things if there happened to be a positive case. So that's, I still, me personally, at that point of the year, a lot of our activities, and I say that, watch it rain and thunder and everything for the last 3 days. There's a lot of outside activities from what I'm hearing. So they'd be outside a lot anybody, but they would be inside.
I know of 3 school districts that are going after June 2nd that have made it parent choice. So there are other school districts that are making that decision.
And I think I know of 2 that are continuing with it. This is what it is, and go from there. So, I mean, there's both sides of the point, and this is ultimately going to be a decision. How many students, ballpark, have we had that were out actually because of it, as opposed to because of being quarantined due to contact? Do you have a rough estimate from
Throughout the year?
Yeah.
I would say the last, but it's been probably 3 or 4 weeks. I think our number, I could be wrong. I want to ballpark it between 30 and 50.
But majority of our kids that were out were due to
Absolutely
quarantine,
yes.
not due to.
That number is close to 200.
Okay.
So I'd be supportive so long as parents who choose not to send their children back have no repercussion for those 3 days.
Is that a motion?
No, is there,
He wants the board support, so this would actually be something probably should vote on from that standpoint.
anybody else have an opinion?
I'm totally fine with removing the mask mandate after June 2nd. The recommendation, parent choice.
How's the staff feel about it?
The staff that I've been talking to, I could be wrong, there's some staff here, but I don't think what I'm hearing is, I haven't heard a lot of opposition of not having masks.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I was gonna say, I think the teachers I've talked to, they've all said they'll do whatever. But if some had a preference, no mask, but if it was required, they're still gonna do it. So it's not like they were gonna be out picketing or protesting it June 2nd if we did go that direction. But so the motion on the table that I'm hearing is parents will be notified, obviously, that it will come out. And it's very fluid. If things change, I think that that is going to be the stance, and I will be the one to say whatever mandate the governor makes, we should follow, i.e. wearing masks until June 2nd, all the things that I asked even, and I'll go on record and saying I am fully vaccinated and I am still wearing a mask at all things because that's just what the governor told me to do. So, but we do that until June 2nd. And then, as you said, parents will have the choice to send masks. And if their child wants to be masked, that is their choice, and they can contact, I would say, contact the building principal if they're not comfortable with sending their child to school in that environment, and that arrangements will be made for those 3 days in that direction. So did I summarize what you were thinking, Kim? That was Kim's motion.
I want to see that verbatim. I second.
Andy seconds. Okay. Any other further discussion on that? All right. Hearing none, if you want to call the roll.
Seabright,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes, motion carries. Second reading on the policies. They're there. They're in the board folder for everyone. Once again, the majority of those are a verbiage change. Really around Transgender was the
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it
not
was
small word change.
small word change when it comes to it. But if you have questions, please let us know in that direction. But these will be up for motion and approval at the next board meeting. So. All right, any other items for discussion?
8450, does that need revised again?
No,
No,
Okay.
no,
no,
not
actually
for
it does
what we're
not.
doing now.
No. It would if the governor did something different and we decided to stay with our motion. So
Even then, no.
it would be, yeah, there's really nothing, but.
Just so I just had it, or that you asked for the totals of students so far this year that have had tested positive. It is 39.
Okay.
Staff is 16.
And public service announcement, they are doing vaccination clinics for 12 and up. So not a public service announcement, but there is an opportunity that your kid could get free education. So, one of the 5. So, all right. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I will make it.
For a second.
Second.
Okay, Andy. All right, I will. Not anything to discuss, so if you want to call the roll.
Trustee Bright? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Yes. Ms. Williams? Yes. Mr. Lightfoot?
Yes. We're out. At, I don't know, 9:40. Killing it.